Okay, so we'll continue from where we left off here with Basar בחלב, Siman Beis. We'll do the last portion of Sif Beis and then go on to Sif Gimel. A little bit of a review as to the Mechaber's din of a little bit of milk falling into marak or lechatichot, falling into a stew, whether it's pure stew, whether they're pieces. It's fleishik, of course. V'lo noda le'eze chaticha nafal, that we're not really sure where it fell exactly. Where did it land? It appears from the lashon of the Mechaber, which is pretty much a quote of the Rambam, that lechatchila no'er et hakdera kula. You can actually go ahead and mix it at any point. Ad sheyashuv v'yitarev hakol, until everything is mixed well. Im yesh b'hakdera kula tam chalav. Afterwards, of course, you invite your friend, your goy, and if there's any taste, it's asur. And if not, it's mutter. And if there's no goy, then of course, meshanim b'shishim. You need 60. All right. So what's different about this case is that there appears to be a chidush, and the chidush is, since when do we do things intentionally? Bitul. This it reminds us of the bitul isur lechatchila, and that is what many of the questions have to do with over here. The Tur is the first one to jump on this. In quoting the Rambam, he says, what's going on? If we're talking about that the chatichot are in the rotev, who needs to mix to begin with? If everything is in the rotev, go ahead and taste it. It's all mixed up. If it's not, if some pieces are outside of the rotev, who gives you permission to mix it? Right? Maybe, after all, there could be easily a tam chalav on, check all the pieces. What's this idea of mixing it? Good question. But obviously this din is a little bit different than the typical. The Rambam obviously was being mechadesh something. This is something new. That it's not an exactly bitul isur lechatchila. As we said last time, the Shach on his own, through Matadeshen, say that basically everything that is in the pot is part of the suffix. And in this case, because of a true suffix, there is no din of mevater isur lechatchila. Mevater isur lechatchila means that you know where the isur is, and you go ahead and try to be mevater. Here, you don't really know where it is. And basically, in these kind of circumstances, the din of bitul isur lechatchila does not apply, but which is, of course, a big chidush, which we need to elaborate a little bit on. But basically, that's what's going on in this last portion of Seif Beis. Now, the shach, there's a long shach and there's a long taz, and I'll try to just summarize pretty much what they say. The shach says, even if you would say that the tipas chalav was completely absorbed in a chaticha, completely absorbed, which therefore means by the time you got to it, it really became a nevela, right? In other words, don't think that there's a chance that it has to be that you did it so quickly that it did not have enough time to become an nevela, which makes things much more lenient. It's there anyway. It did not affect any piece, and therefore, that's why I have permission to mix it. No, the Shach says what is implied from these words, if we take it literally, the way the Mechaber says them and quotes them, as the Rambam puts it, it basically means, even if you did it later on, not right away, which means even if the piece of meat absorbed the chalab all the way and became a nevela, it still wouldn't be a problem to mix it later on. Why? Because he says we have a klal. What's the klal? He says the klal is, if one does not know where the tipa fell, on which chaticha it fell, on this kind of a situation, we don't say chaticha nas nevela. We don't say chanan. In other words, even though the conditions are ripe, that one piece can become chanan, right? Chaticha naset nevela, that it will have absorbed one piece for sure. And you know what that means? It means that if one piece becomes a nevela, you need now shishim against the whole thing, as we will be learning in Sif Dalet. When do we say chanan and when not? But this is a big responsibility. No, but the Shach says we have a rule. There's a klal, and we're going to see where he learns it from, in a sense, that if we don't know where it fell, there's a suffix, then we don't say chanan. Even though the timing, the chances are such that one piece did possibly become a nevela. Now, he does add that if we were to find out later on which piece it is, then we may be in trouble. Because then we say chanan lemafre'a. Lemafre'a means in English retroactively. Yeah. Yeah. Right? Of course. And then, of course, you would have to calculate, do you have enough to be mevatel the chanan or not? All right. Granted. Now, this is a big yesod, very important yesod, a big yesod, that we don't say chanan when we in doubt, even if it's possible it became a chanan. Where does he learn it from? So, Baruch Hashem, we learned Taaruvot before we learned Basar בחלב, and we went through a very interesting Siman. One of the most interesting, I think, Simanim in the entire Taaruvot. Siman Kuf Yud Aleph, it happens to be the last one. And in Siman Kuf Yud Aleph, you have the following situation. The last Siv Zayin. You have two pots of heter. They're both cooking on top of the stove. They're both heter. On one of them you have, hot dogs. On the other one you have some other meat. They're both heter. Remember this one? And an isur fell into one of the two pots. And you don't know to which one it fell. Now, what is the problem there? The problem is that neither of the two pots on its own has enough k'delevatela isur. We know how big the isur was. We know how much is in each pot, and neither of the two pots on their own has enough to mevatel the isur. However, if you combine them, then there's enough between the two of them to be mevatel it. Guess what? Shtehen mitztarfot levatlo. That's the halacha. We learned that in Hilchos Taaruvos that they both combine to be mevatel the isur. Then the Chabad goes on. It's not even if they're on the same stove. They're separate locations. As long as they belong to one person. Why? Because if they're from one person, what do we say? We say osid litarev. It's going to eventually be mixed anyway. He's going to have them for dinner at the same time, and therefore he's going to mix them anyway. See? He's going to mix them anyway. So they're going to eventually be mixed. Eventually it will be batel. But even of course, if they're from two different people, where they're never going to get mixed up, so of course you can't, that doesn't apply. So the Shach says we learned that klal from there. What do we see from there? Anything that eventually will be combined anyway, will be mixed anyway, it is as though it is mixed as of this moment. This klal, of course, it's not just from there. This klal he took from the I think the Magid Mishnah on the Rambam, from the Sefer Isur Beheter, the klal itself. But he basically ties it, or says the source, the concept behind it is what we learn in Kuf Yud Aleph. That's what he's mekasher to. In other words, anything that is part of the suffix is mesayeh levatel. Anything that is part of the suffix that we have here can eventually help to in the bittul process.
Provided it's combined.
Yeah, provided that it's combined at some point in time.
No, it doesn't have to be
Right.
practical.
Right.
But ultimately he didn't combine. He could have, but
Yeah, he needs to.
oh, so it has to.
We learned that later on that there are we learned that he needs to combine them.
Actually, we're not assuming that you said before that we're assuming you're the same person.
Right.
We assume they would be combined.
Right. But they
that
need,
actually
but
has
one,
to happen.
but it needs to happen. One needs to happen. But it needs. They say you should do it. In other words, it needs. That's what I recall. It needs to happen. But we say that it is as though as it is combined as of this moment too.
There's a suffix.
Right, provided there's a suffix. Now, I didn't tell you all the little details about it because there's some big questions on this shach.
In other words, if I see the piece of the two pots, and I will later combine the two pots and have a meal, since there's no suffix in which it fell,
Right.
I can't do this.
Not only that, I forget who actually brings it down. I think the shach brings it down, but I forget in the name of who he brings it down. That if one of the pots has shim and the other one does not, we don't say automatically it fell into the shishim, or that they combine.
So they don't combine?
They don't combine. No, they don't combine. If one of them has shishim, we don't say that they combine. That's a very interesting chidush. I didn't have a chance to review again the whole idea.
That would be worthwhile inspecting.
Yeah, but that's a
counterintuitive.
Yeah, that's a shach. If one of them has enough, has shishim, and the other one does not have, that's not when we say they're both mitztaref. It's only when neither of the two has that we combine it.
Because there was it. Because it needs the other. Remember, there was such a concept.
Something like that. Yeah.
That you only have when we were talking about what was it? Rest? No, it's rest to mix.
Yes.
Mamid,
yes.
That both of them are required. Then
Zevezegorem, you mean?
Yeah,
that's something else. Zevezegorem is similar, but it's a different idea.
No, because by Zevezegorem, if one of them would be sufficient,
exactly, then you don't have.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
and here also,
it's similar. I would agree with you that there's some similarity to it, but I did not have again the time to review that whole shach, whole long shach there. But he gets into that and he points that out that it wouldn't apply in that case. And perhaps since we're already talking about that, Sif, let me already give you the other question of the shach. But we'll briefly answer it, is, wait a minute, Shach, you're bringing a riot from Kuf Yud Aleph? That's only in the Derabanan do we say that. We don't say that in an Isser D'Oraisa. Okay? The whole case of Tziruf is when there will be no Isser D'Oraisa, there will be no Tam.
Yeah, but we have here...
No, I'm talking about Kuf Yud Aleph for a moment. I'm bringing up a question over there, and then eventually I'm going to come back here.
Right, but Kuf Yud Aleph
it's only allowed in the Rabbanan situation, not when there will be Tam. Here is Basar B'Chalav. But if you think a little bit about it, you may figure it out.
Before we come up here,
right.
Over there, if
it's a good question.
So over there, if the fell wasn't the Oraisa, you wouldn't have this trick of
Let's put it this way: if there is a problem of tam, okay, I'm giving you a little bit of a clue. If there's a problem of tam there, min b'she'eino mino, for example, okay.
We're talking about kufiyut.
Right. If there would be a problem of tam, the rice min b'she'eino minoi, we wouldn't allow tziruf.
So min we would only allow with respect to 60. If I needed the tziruf to have a majority, I wouldn't be able to be the Oraisa. Only if we're talking about min b'mino that I need the 60, because this is the Rabbanan.
Yes.
So then over there...
in Kuf Yud Aleph, right. So suppose it looks like a very strong question on the Shach. It appears like a big question when you're trying to relate this over there. There, it's only in the Rabbanan situation do we allow that kind of an approach.
But Hanan is meeting.
You're getting close. Yeah. So therefore.
So if it's min b'mino, it would be
the
majority of the Oraisa.
Right. Basically, that's it. So the Kresu place, I think, is the one that says that. Maybe others as well. That here, initially, what you have is other pieces of meat too. So it would be botol beroiv. It's min b'minoi. Well, what about the roitev? The sauce? Doesn't that make it a min b'minoi? So that would be a case of salek es she'eino minoi. V'minoi rabo, right? That you would remove, you would ignore. If you call their sauce, if you really call it an eino minoi, it's a question. Then you would say, remove it, we got minois over here to deal with.
Right.
And
so it was misbattle in the bimino.
It was misbattle in the
bimino. And now there was a misbattle, it can no longer harm the
right, yeah, exactly.
Like we had vegetables.
Like we have it, yeah, with vegetables. Remember that, yeah, good. Anyway, so that's a little bit of what's going on over here. All right. So therefore, we consider that, like the Rashba says, that since they're going to be mixed, they're mixed as of now. Now, what about the Tur? The Tur who had a problem with this Rambam, what would he say about Kuf Yud Aleph, which he doesn't disagree with? What would be the difference according to him? Obviously, there is some difference between this Sif in Tzadik Beis and Kuf Yud Aleph. He wouldn't want to compare. He wouldn't say that they're the same. So the Shach talks about that too. What would the Tur say? The Tur would say that they're not the same. Tur would say, like we just finished saying, that apparently over here it's more of a min b'she'eino minoi, because of basar b'chalav. And it's nikar atam. The chalav you can actually, if you or the goyim, it may be detectable. And so long as that tam can be detectable, guess what? You have to be mevarer in every way you can. Mapi told that you just be menayer. Mapi, why should you just mix? There is a chance that the tam here is detectable. Then don't compare it. The Shach says, the Tur will say, don't compare it over there where there's no tam, where it's not min b'she'eino minoi. Okay, so that's pretty good too. In other words, I understand that. In other words, according to the Tur, the two simanim or the two halachas would be very different. Here it's more of a min b'she'eino minoi, and over there it's a min b'minoi. So therefore, since there's a possibility of detecting tam, you don't say that klal of the Rashba that the whole kedera nichneses besafek. Why sharef shar levarer? You can always figure it out. You can always find out on which chaticha possibly it fell, by tasting every chaticha. Call the goy and have him taste it. So as long as you can be mevarer, you can find out. Why should you call this as the whole thing is one big suffix?
How possible that the goy will
He's going to finish the whole thing. Yeah.
It doesn't practical.
Yeah. You're right, yeah. Anyway, what's interesting is the Pri Megadim brings down, the Chochmas Adam brings down, that in this case, you would allow to be mevarer al-yedei koi, through a goy. Even though the Rambam does not allow you to be mevarer through a goy, that's lekula, but here it would be lechumra. In other words, if there's any way I can be mevarer, I'm not going to be mekel. You follow that? Pri Megadim Chochmas Adam says, here, the Ashkenazim would allow you to use a kafela. Why? Because the kafela would be a chumrah. He's going to tell you, that it's not batel, because I may be able to detect it. So we're using the kafela to be machmir. You understand? So the Chochmas on the Pri Megadim says that here a kafela would be possible. All right.
Yes, but here,
Right.
and anywhere they need it to be mevatel.
You would still need 60.
Because according to the Mehaber,
Right.
if we have a kfela, you don't need it.
If you don't have a kfela, you do need 60. But if you have a kfela, you don't
If
need.
you have kfela, you don't need it with the Mehaber.
Well, not always. No. There is the svara that even if you have shishim, that's not what's going to matter. The shishim is a kula when you don't have kfela.
Because midoraita,
You still need
we
shishim.
just need majority. We don't need.
Right, but
midoraita,
it's
we don't
no
need.
midoraita, yeah.
We don't need.
Yeah.
And the Mehaber holds
But
midoraita.
we learned before that the svara is that even, at least one opinion is, that the Mechaber would hold that you still need shishim, even if the kafela, because the shishim is only if you don't have a kafela.
Okay, if you don't have
If you don't have a kafela, but you have a kafela, you still need to have shishim.
okay.
Yeah.
With issue.
Yeah, both. You may need both, right? Okay, so basically, besides that klal in the Shach telling us why this works the way it is, why this is one big suffix, he does bring down another shita. And this shita is the shita of the Mari ben Chaviv that says something completely different. It says, you know what really the Rambam is talking about? The Rambam is not telling us such a big chiddush after all. He says, because we're really talking about that you were being mena'er, you mixed up the kedera right away. Why should he do it right away? Because obviously you want to make sure right away that any chalav that was there got all over the roitev. Benit pashet. It got spread out very, very well. Good. So that would be the reason, because the question is still a question, why would you have to mix it then? Right? No, you want to mix it because it should get mixed very, very well.
We also learn that we learn also in the Menayah, because if that milk is on one of the Hanan,
Right. That's yeah.
when we be Menayah, it's not going to be more.
Yeah, that's if you hold that we're talking about right away.
Right away.
Yeah, if you hold like right. So that's what he's saying. In other words, if you're holding, then it's not a chidush. The Rambam is not saying a big chidush according to this Mari ben Chaviv, that you're doing it right away in order that it should be mitpashet everywhere in the roitev. So the Shach explains that even according to this shita that we're talking about, that ni'er miyad, how would you understand nafal letoch hamarak? He says, in Bechaber says, v'chenim nafal letoch hamarak o lechatichot. When it falls into the sauce, why would you have to mix right away? I can understand on the pieces perhaps, but why on the marak? Why on the sauce? Why would I have to do it? Everything is mixed anyway. So the answer is a very good answer, because this is something, Ilan, we were thinking about. We couldn't figure out what's the advantage of, what does he gain by mixing it? Remember?
Yeah.
What does he gain by mixing it if it's somewhat mixed anyway? And the answer is, Shach says, according to that Mari ben Chaviv, it's talking about that there are pieces that are outside the roitev. If you want everything, if you want to have a shir shishi, you want to have everything included, even those things that are outside the rotev right now. You want to put them all inside. So the near can accomplish that, to be metzaref, to combine everything that is sticking out too. If you want to have everything count, then you got to mix everything in. I thought that was a very good explanation, at least according to this shita that says you have to mix right away. So if it's in the marok, if it's in the sauce, why would you have to mix it? What do you really gain? What's the advantage of mixing? Well, the advantage is sometimes the things are not mixed well, and you want to use them or combine them to the bittul. So they have to all be mixed in. There's not enough just by the roitev itself. There isn't. You need everything. So, yeah, but here it also says chenim nafal letoch hamarak.
Eating out, legabe, that's don't have a question.
Right.
What the big one is.
Right.
Where we do have a question what the mission, where we're sticking out.
Where some of the pieces were sticking out. That's correct. No, so I'm saying, so there, the advantage is, the benefit is that you get everything mixed in case if you don't have shishim from just the stuff that's in the roitiv. And you need that which is outside as well. So if you mix them, then you get the benefit of having much more volume, right, to be mevatel the Yisro. The Bach, in the Taz, also speaks about it, that we're talking about also Nir Miyad. So the Bach also he says, why say that there's a machlokes over here? Why say that there's a big chidush here? Why make problems? In other words, why make such issues on bitul isal lechatchila? The Rambam seems to be saying also that it was Nir Miyad. And the Bach says only in that case he would be matir. And of course the point is very simple, that if you do it right away, it's like we've learned before. You don't give it a chance to stay anywhere, and it goes all over the Ketera. But if it was shohok tzas, if it was by itself for a little while, and then you mixed it, he claims, the Bach says, that even the Rambam would say that you need shishim keneged, the biggest chaticha. So that's, in other words, if you hold like that, basically like the Ramah, like we said last time, who say that it doesn't help that you're menayah later on, that's what would be required to be mevatel, to have shishim keneged the biggest chaticha. If you did wait and mix it later on, because by that time it became chanan. And this is what Ilan mentioned last time. But that would be based on, of course, either the Ramah that does not hold that you can do this later on, or like the Bach who learns Pshat in the Rambam, that even the Rambam would say that you can only do it right away and not do it later. For if you were to do it later, this is what you would get yourself into. You would get yourself into a situation where now you need Shishin Keneged, the biggest chaticha, the biggest piece. The Taz adds a very important point, that if we're talking about that the chatichas are inside the roitev and not outside the roitev, then the idea of mixing it is because you don't want the possibility of a goy coming to you and saying, I can taste milk in the piece. You want that when the goy arrives, you want that he should not taste the milk in any chaticha. So therefore it is to your advantage, the advantage of the Baalim, the Taz says, to mix it as much as possible, because in this way the tam is scattered everywhere and not in one particular location. If you don't do any mixture, there is a chance, maybe not a bit, but some chance that the goy will come and say, I detected. Bidyuk, that chaticha, that piece has chalav, that tam chalav. But if you go ahead and mix it, then you have a chance that he may not be able to detect it anywhere. So the Taz says, even if you hold that we're talking about that the pieces are inside, that's to your advantage. You see, another reason why it's advantageous to mix it even later. In other words, even the way the Taz explains, even if the pieces are in the roita, because it's already mixed. It's already mixed. What would you gain by mixing it? You gain that even if it's already in the roita, it may have fallen in one location. It's not mixed. He may taste some more milk here. But if it's mixed well, then it's scattered all over. If there's no goy, then obviously you don't need to mix. Then you have to see if there's shishim or not. Okay, that's pretty much the end of Seif Beis. As we said, the Ramah says, "V'yesh cholkim usfiro de'eno mo'il ma sheno'er ha'gdara im lo sheni'er miyad shenafal ha'isur ve'achi nahug." That is the custom. I think the Kaf HaChaim, brings down that we conduct ourselves like the Ashkenazim when it comes to this. There are various times that the Kaf HaChaim, which is a Sephardi, says that in various cases, even though the Mechaber says one thing, we conduct ourselves like the Ashkenazim. Look, it's good to know what the Mechaber says, because in case you need to rely on it and have some Meruba situation and so forth, we know what the halacha is. So therefore, based on the Ramah's opinion, even though you may hold that, okay, this may be an exception, it's not a real bitul isol lechatchila for the various reasons explained, we don't do it. we don't rely on that. In other words, because we're concerned, of course, that one piece already became an avela, and we're machmir. In other words, we don't just go and say, okay, it's a suffix, and therefore go ahead and do it lechatchila. But go ahead and mix it right away as soon as you become aware of it, because then you can say what we've said all along, that as long as it's detectable, you can see it. Well, actually, you can't see it because then you would know which chatichi it is. But as long as you know it just happened, which is the same thing, then you have the chance to mix it and not suspect that it became a chanan at that moment. Okay, so let's go on to Seif. Real short Seif, because the big Seif. Exactly, right.
Because if it says, he has to take part of that, even the barak or something.
Yeah.
No, so that's it. That's the situation.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so before we go to Seif Gimel, we reviewed the questions on the Shach about the differences between here and Kuf Yud Aleph, that over there it's only, we only say Tziruf by Isur D'Rabbanan, and here it's Isur D'Oraisa. So we gave one teretz to the crazy flacy that even here we have really a case of D'Rabbanan, because the piece upon which the little bit of milk fell on, we don't know which piece it is. Because we don't know which piece it is, that piece is Batul B'Roiv, the Roiv of the other Chatichas, so it's a Rabbanan. It's a D'Rabbanan that we need Shish. Even though, of course, the case here is a Basar B'Chalav case, but the solid pieces are Min B'Minoi. So Min B'Minoi is Batul B'Roiv. So as we said, therefore, here and there they're both examples of D'Rabbanan. What about if one piece is a Chaticha Ruya L'Skabed? Minator, it is still bottle. Remember that? Chaticha ruyalit kabed, if it's a nice, juicy piece that you serve as a main course, that's called ruyalit kabed. Then we say afilu be'elef lo bottle, even 1,000. That's only a D'Rabbanan.
Is everything?
No, just those pieces that are ruyalit kabed. Right?
No, all the pieces of kabed.
Right, all the pieces that are ruyalit kabed. Right. Chavas Das, maybe we'll talk a little bit about the Chavas Das too. Chavas Das also says something very interesting. Chavas Das says, here we're talking about a chaticha shemichutz larotiv. The piece that we're talking about here, that is questionable, the piece is outside the rotiv. It's not in the liquid. Therefore what? Any drop of milk falling on it or the others is not a doraita. Why? Because it's not bishul, it's sli. He basically goes like the opinion that sli basar b'chalav is not a deraisa. You can't do it anyway. You can't roast the milk and meat without liquid. But it's not bishul. Bishul is deraisa. But if you're talking about pieces of meat that are sticking out of the water, sticking out of the liquid, so any chalav, any tipot chalav, the drops of milk falling on those pieces of meat is not bringing about a bishul. So there's no Isur D'Oraisa, it's only an Isur D'Rabbanan. So that's his way of learning or trying to explain the Shach, in a sense, of why this and Kuf Yud Aleph would qualify of being more or less D'Rabbanans. Because here we're talking about, in the end, a D'Rabbanan kind of situation. For a different reason. Not because of Min B'Mino Batul B'Roiv, but because it's Sli, it's outside the liquid. I thought that was interesting. Okay. Chavad Dat. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, the Chochmas Adam adds one very important point, and I also thought it pays to mention this. I saw that he brings down that the klal, that we don't say chanan only in an Isur Barur, that we know for sure this piece of heter was involved. We don't know which one was involved. In other words, the only time we say the Isur of chanan is be'isur mevurar, and not besafek naga. It may be touched, maybe did not touch, maybe cooked, maybe did not cook. That rule is said even by the Raita. That rule of chanan, not being chanan only if it's an isur borur, is said even in a situation of a deraisa. Right, so that's also very interesting, because in the end, that's what the Shach and the Taz, to an extent, were saying in the words of the Mechaber, not according to the Torah, according to the real way of learning Pshat in the Rambam, that this is a Chidush. Right? That this is a Chidush, that you can mix it later. And how could you get away with it? Because we don't know for sure which piece it is. Then Chanan does not apply. And then Chanan does not apply. I mean, what's wrong? Right? It doesn't apply, so why should we be concerned? So this applies according to Chacham Chazal even in a real deraisa, which is good to know. All right, we're going to go on to Sif Gimel real quickly. So before we go into Gimel really and Daled, just a quick review of what Hanan and Isur and Efshel HaSoichter, since they're somewhat related. Efshel HaSoichter is Asur. That's how we pass. It's a machloikes, the Gemara. Efshel HaSoichter means a piece of heter becomes Asur. It was bolea, it absorbed Isur. Even though later on it fell into another pot, question whether we have shish against it or not, it became Hanan or not, it will always remain Asur. Even though somehow you were able to extract the Isur from it. Right? It still remains Asur. Now, the fact that it remains Asur, by the way, we hold is a Durabanan. Okay? Efshel HaSoichter Asur, we hold is true. It's Asur, but it's Asur Midrabanan. In other words, the Rabbanan were the ones that said Efshel HaSoichter Asur. So that's an important point to keep in mind. Okay? Efshel HaSoichter Asur. Now, so let's talk a little bit about Efshel HaSoichter. Why is Efshel HaSoichter Asur? Why should it be Asur? Big machlekes. Why? I mean, what if I can extract everything from it? I mean, what's happening? This piece of meat has a blia. It went into another pot. It went to another pot. Why not say that at some point all the Isur came out? I mean, after all, we have shisha, we have 100, we have 1,000 times as much of the heter against it. So let's say the tam swims along, comes out. I mean, that's the natural, that's the chemistry behind cooking. The tam absorbed, comes out, eventually. Right? So what's the problem? All right. So we have two very interesting Rashbas, the same author, Rashba. He has two Sforim, right? And in one Sefer he writes, Torah Sabaisa Oruch, he writes like this. The Isur was absorbed in the Chaticha. Once it's absorbed, it never comes out. Those are his words. It never comes out. Wow. Okay, he said so. In the Mekutzar, in the shorter version, he says, these are the words, She'ein ha'isur niflat legamre. He says, I assure you that you recook it again, the isur that's absorbed in the piece does not come out in its entirety. Some may, yes, some of course, but all of it, no. And we can never know.
How much came out?
How much came out? Some, yeah. Some is left over. And even though we know that there's now the leftover maybe less than shishim, maybe. We don't know. It's a big no. So it's interesting how the two Rashbas, the same Rashba, are quite different for the reasons of why Efshel HaSoichter is also. One doesn't come out. But maybe that's what he means. It doesn't come. We don't know how much comes out. We don't. That's what he means. But it appears to be very different, this Rashba and this Rashba, as to why Efshel HaSoichter should be Asur. We have shishim, everything else will be mutter. Let this piece that became asur, give it a chance. Let it be kosher again. No, it became treif once upon a time, it doesn't become kosher again. It's too late. Why? But I mean, the time, squeeze it out. You can't, not all of it is squeezed out. So that's the Rashba as far as Efshel HaSoichter. However, the Ran and the Shach, this is again in Taaruvot, Kuf Hey. Yeah. לא, אפשר לסוך את האסור. לא, היום אנחנו עושים אפשר לסוך את האסור. כן, כן, בוודאי, זה עוד מהגמרא. בטח שיש מחלוקת. כן, כן, אבל היום אפשר לסוך את האסור. The Ran, the Shach say something very interesting. The moment something becomes a nevela, becomes Isur, she becomes a hefze of Isur. This is a typical language that's used in the yeshiva world, hefze. In other words, the whole thing becomes a new entity of Isur. Once something has absorbed Isur, it has been rendered Asur. The Shach. And therefore, it's treif. And so it will remain. No reasons given as far as time coming out. Who cares about that? Even if it were to come out, everything, every molecule, according to them, it would be every molecule apparently. According to the Rashba, if you somehow had a way to figure it out, there's no molecules left of Isur, the Rashi will say, okay, I have no problem with it. I just don't have the tools to see that. But based on the Ran and the Shach, I don't care if you got every molecule out. It became a Hefza of Isser. So, again, it's good to review this, and we covered a little bit of this, I think, in Taaruvot. No, they're related. Efshel Sechta also is related to Hanan. It was also Hanan is also Hefza D'Isur in a sense. Yeah, you're right.
Doesn't Hanan mean exactly that? There was Bolea the Isser.
Yeah, in Ochinami. Yeah.
Is there some distinction?
No, but here I'm describing, before we get to Hanan, I'm describing just Efshel Sechta also, which is also Chidush. Why can't I? What if I did get it out? Wouldn't help you.
What is with the Rashi? If you could, you dry out the item, and then somehow it fell in and got cold. According to him, you couldn't have bought this.
I guess yes, maybe. According to the Rashba, no.
Who says the Isser is form? I can dry a liquid and still I have something left over as something dry.
No, but what George meant was, if theoretically, if you can completely extract it, dry it out.
No, he meant actually drying it.
Or drying it, but to a point where nothing is left.
You could dry it to where virtually nothing.
But the Isser would now be a dried Isser. Why would the Isser be talui on a liquid?
Because maybe it evaporated. No,
the liquid evaporated.
The liquid.
The Isser is still as a dried Isser. I mean, I can't take something that's liquid and dry it.
But the liquid was the Isser to begin with. It wasn't the mamoshes.
The Isser was present in liquid.
Right.
Doesn't mean that the quality of being an Isser depends on it. If I take something that is in liquid form, I can dry it, let's say milk or whatever.
Right, sure.
I still have some substance left.
Yeah, but you can eventually completely evaporate it. Nothing's left.
Evaporate whatever liquid component was in it.
You would evaporate the record to begin with.
I mean, you can burn it.
Yeah.
Theoretically, you could get to a level where, except what you started with the liquid would be gone.
There are situations.
What I don't understand,
Right.
and Isser is entirely on it to be a liquid though. If it starts out in
Right.
liquid form and
Right.
I dry it, I still have Isser left over. Liquid is gone.
You may have.
But the Isser is left over in
How?
dried form.
It may be or maybe
I can
not.
dry things that are liquid and I still have something remaining in
Yes,
dried form.
because there's always.
It would still be an Isser.
Because there are something, obviously, if you still have something there,
Right.
that means there's some solids there
So
in the liquid.
the idea of drying something is an event that affects the form of it being a liquid. But it's being a liquid, having been affected of being dried, doesn't guarantee me that the Isser itself is gone. It could be there in dry form.
Yes,
Okay.
but if you dry water, it'll ultimately be there.
Right, but I understand what you're saying too. You know the
I'm
famous.
sure if you do the
By the way,
right
you know the famous law in physics that you can never destroy any element,
No, energy.
energy.
Sure, you can change between.
You can change between the gas and the form, so there's always some form. But as far as we're concerned, there has to be some time left over, something there, and if there isn't,
I was trying to figure out
You're right.
between the Ron and the Rosh
Right.
because you may be getting
that's exactly it. That's what we were saying. That based on the Ran.
No. So what the Ran is not saying is what the Ran is saying. You remove the whole Isser, be it liquid, dry, whatever.
The Ron says it becomes
It becomes a Hefza Isser, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
So if you remove the whole Isser, whether it's dry or liquid or whatever, the remaining piece that I was free of the Isser itself is the Isser.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's what we're going to see right now in Siv Gimel. We're pretty much going to see the combination of Efshel Sechta, like Ilan says, with Hanan. Really, Efshel Sechta also and Hanan are almost pretty much the same halacha, except that when we talk about Hanan, we're concerned about how much we need. This is Hanan, therefore we need Shishim against the whole piece. Whereas Efshel Sechta is another aspect of the same problem. Whereas because it was boleh, now it can no longer extract. You can no longer extract this. A different aspect of the same circumstances. Okay, so Siv Gimel says like this: when this piece of meat, a piece of meat, became also because of milk, nasis kol hachaticha isur. So the whole piece becomes isur. Vim bishloim acheris, if you cook that piece with others, now tzorich shishim levatel kulo. In other words, up until now, I don't necessarily know this halacha. I know that I need shishim against the isur itself. And now the Mechaber tells us there's something called Hanan, that milk and meat, if the meat absorbed milk, and you went ahead and cooked this piece of meat with others, you need shishim levatel kulo to therefore mevatel the whole piece. Ve'im akiro, and let's say you after you have the bitul or not, you recognize it, especially if you have bitul. Even if you have bitul, you are makir, you know which chaticha it is, mashlicha. You have to throw it away. Ve'acheres mutaros, and the rest will be mutar. V'im eino makiru, if you don't know where it is, but it's chanan. Haroitev mutar, the sauce is mutar. Ve'kol hachatichas asuros im chatichas ha'isur is ruya liskabed. And all the chatichas are asur if the chatichas ha'isur is ruya liskabed. You don't know which chaticha is asur.
But just if the royal kabed, it's not ruya liskabed, it's batel.
The what?
Yeah,
It's not ruya liskabed, it's batel.
Yeah. Sure. Everything would be batal. But you would need shishim against the whole chaticha. Now,
just before we continue, so efshar lesachto means
I can. In other words,
it's possible.
in other words, the efshar lesachto means if I can is a mutar or asur.
Right.
The halacha is it's asur. Efshar lesachto, asur.
Even by.
In other words, even if you say it's efshar. What?
Even by not basar.
Yeah, everywhere. By basar b'chalav, we will see there's a little bit of a difference between basar b'chalav and shar isurim. Not only the gabe chanan, we're going to get to it in a moment.
Efshar lesachto b'shar isurim. Bits of meat absorbed a little,
Right.
and fell into a pot.
Right.
The mitzdarif with everything else in the to be mevatel the bit of
That yes.
Wouldn't there
Only if you don't hold chanan b'shar isurim.
Yeah.
Right.
But even if you do, it will be the rabbanan.
Right.
I think it's a mahloket Sfaradim.
Fine, but with respect to the
אל תעשה
mechar.
מחלוקת מיותרת.
That's the mechar.
Yeah.
That's the mechar.
נכון, that's נכון.
So if the piece there is mistarif with the header,
That's correct.
wouldn't that be a case of efsachto mut?
No.
Then how is it mistarif with the? I mean, a piece of hanan can be mistarif with the header.
Piece of chanan is not mitzaref.
Right, but here the piece of meat is mistarif.
Right.
To be mevatel the chelif it absorbed.
That's correct.
So with respect to its mitzdarif to constitute 6 of it, efshar lesachto.
No, it's just that piece itself. Efshar lesachto only concerns that piece. That piece remains a form of chefza de isura, either because of what the Ran says, it's so because it became asur once, right? Or because we're not sure if all of it came out.
To the mechar, then how is it participating in 60?
It does because it's not chanan.
If it's asur.
Because it's not
But
chanan.
if it's an isur, how does it contribute?
It's only asur for me to eat.
Right, that's what I'm saying. But
Right.
efshar lesachto asur doesn't mean it's asur for me. It's asur for me to eat because I can't eat it.
Let me
without
ask you
eating the
something.
isur.
There's a difference between a nevela, a shtickle nevela, a piece of nevela, and you have a piece of meat, a heter that was bolea and isur. As we will see, there's a big difference between the two of them in a moment. One difference is that you still have, maybe not shishim in this piece to be mevatel the isur, and that's why it became asur, but you still have 30, 40.
But no. But if I say efshar lesachto asur, don't I need 60? If it's
No.
efshar lesachto asur,
No.
according to what you brought as vision of the Ran, was it? That it became a chefza de isura, I would need 60 against that piece of even though
Everything
it was only a
is
piece of malay.
everything is mitzdaref. Everything.
Wait.
Yeah.
According to the opinion you brought,
Right.
a chefza de isura, the
Right.
Ran. If the piece of meat itself is a chefza de isura, then I need 60 against that piece of meat.
We call it that to explain why extraction doesn't work, right? But it's not.
No. Efshar lesachto means you can extract, and still you have it's asur. Efshar lesachto asur means you can extract. Efshar lesachto is you can extract. And the question is, then why is it asur if you can extract? So the Rabbah says because some will still remain.
Let's go back to Taaruvot just for a moment. Siman kuvav, chaticha shebalai isur, right? A piece of meat, your favorite meat, was balei isur. The emba shishim levatlo in itself it has no 60 levatlo. Shenaflo lekdera, so it became asur, right? It became a chefza. It fell later on to another gdera. Ena oseret ela lefi cheshbon isur sheba.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Right. Sheim yesh ba b'mei sheba gdera. מצורף עם החתיכה עצמה, שישים כנגד האיסור בלובה, מותר מה שבגדרה.
So the chaticha itself is not considered a chayfetz of isur here.
One second. אבל החתיכה עצמה,
Asura, because I can't
why?
eat meat
לפי
because I'm not eating the chalif.
שאיסור שבו אינו נפלט ממנו. I have a problem.
Right, because I can't eat the meat without eating the chalif
Right,
that's in it.
right.
Fine, so that's why, but it's not because the piece
By the
itself
way,
is
what do we
isur.
see from this mechaber? That he's basically going with the Rashba,
Fine.
now with the Ran, as far
Okay.
as explaining the
Right.
reasoning.
But
Yeah.
according to the Ran, the meat itself will be a chayfetz de isura. I don't care whether or not it has still an isur belua inside of it. The meat itself I'm not allowed to eat because of the meat.
Yeah.
Because it itself is a chitza de isura.
But it's still mitzdaref. It still has heter in it. There is still a heter because
if it's a
bitul.
chitza isura, it itself is the isura.
Unless you have to hold Hanan for that. That's the chidush of Hanan. Hanan says the whole thing becomes the same. Right?
But I don't see what the difference is between calling it Hanan or calling it chitza
Here.
isura.
ולפי מה שנוהגים, רמו, לפי מה שנוהגים לומר בכל האיסורים חתיכה נאסס נבלה, אין חילוק בין דובר לך לדובר יובש, right? That's something else over there. Right, that's something else. But the thing is that you wouldn't be able to escape that. That's what the Ramah says. Once you hold Hanan, which is a bigger chidush than Efshel L'Seichter, Hanan says the whole thing is equivalent to Isser. Efshel L'Seichter doesn't really touch on that. Efshel L'Seichter just says this piece cannot convert back to being Jewish. It became treif. It cannot come back to what it was. I don't have a way to do it, like the Rashba says. I don't know how much. But it's still heter. There's at least 40, 50%, 60% maybe, right, of heter in there. I mean, there's something there I can be mitzaref of this. I can even be mitzaref of bones of the velas, if they're completely dry. Yeah, so that's not a problem. Anyway, very interesting chilukim and how to explain Efshel L'Seichter. But now let's get to the Hanan, and this is where we'll stop, because Siv Dalet goes on to the big machlokes that you just said between Mechaber and others. Where do we apply Hanan? Right, where Shitat Rabbeinu Ephraim? Where do we say Hanan on all Isurim or just Basar b'chalav? That's the big machloket. Yeah. So the only thing we want to cover right now is like this. We finished off Sif Gimel by saying that Kol hachatichot atzurot im chatichat ha'isur re'uya litkabed. Right? So therefore, what did we say? That since it's Efshel L'Seichter is Asur, you don't have Shishim. I'm sorry, Efshel L'Seichter was something else. Since it's Basar b'chalav, you need Shishim to be Mevatel Kuloi, which is Hanan according to everybody. Even if there is Bitul, you would have to throw it out. But the rest are only Mutar if neither of them is Chaticha Ruya L'Skabed. If one of them is Chaticha Ruya L'Skabed, then they're not Batal. In other words, the Shishim that you had would not help you with that. So that's a separate din of Chaticha Ruya L'Skabed. Okay, now. Chaticha Ruya L'Skabed, for those of you who remember Hilchos Taaruvot, is only applicable on an Isur Machmas Atzmoi. This is treif. Chaticha Ruya L'Skabed, then it's not bottle. What if something became treif because it absorbed an Isur, and it's a nice piece, big steak, but it absorbed Isur? Do we say it's a Chaticha Ruya L'Skabed? No. The Rabbanon decree on Chaticha Ruya L'Skabed that is not bottle afilu be'elef is only on Isur Machmas Atzmoi. Remember, Machmas Atzmoi means that it in itself is also without blias, without nothing. It's an avela. It's a piece of zebra meat, horse meat, whatever you want to, right? An avela. Or something that was not slaughtered correctly. Right?
That would be an avela.
That's a real avela. Yeah, that behemoth would be a behemoth tmeir, mind the other example. Yeah, but anyway, the same thing. It's not, that's an Isur Machmas Atzmoi. Something that has an Isur Belua. You know what a good example of an Isur Belua would be? By us, a real example where things like this can happen. Here, somebody by mistake cooked a piece of meat without salting it. It's not Isur Machmas Atzmoi, right? The meat is kosher. Yeah. But they had blood inside. The blood is treif. The blood is a belia, an Isur Belua, I should say. So we don't say Chaticha Ruya L'Skabed by Isur Belua. Okay, that's so far so good. That's easy. But wait a minute. We just finished saying in Siv Gimel that Basar b'chalav, which is a case of Basar b'chalav, and the Basar b'chalav here he tells us that if it's a Chaticha, if one of the Chatichas is Ruya L'Skabed, they're not bottled even if you have Shishim. But this is Basar b'chalav. Isn't Basar b'chalav an Isur Belua?
How? What's the issue?
You have milk going into meat.
The milk was perfectly kosher. There's nothing to it. The milk is not a sin.
Yeah, but the liquid was a Belua.
The liquid, but it's not an Isser. So the Isser was not Balua.
Okay, come on, a little more.
Well, no, I mean...
No, but it's the same kind of chemistry. You follow what I'm trying to say? You have meat absorbing something.
The meat absorbed
something.
The milk was kosher, so we don't have any Isser that was Balua here. So if anything becomes an Isser because of it's the milk that was absorbed and the meat that absorbed it. Both of them equally become an Isser because you're not allowed to cook them together.
Okay, so Basar, very good. So Basar b'chalav is unique in that it's not an Isur Belua because it's the combination of the two that creates this Isur called Basar b'chalav.
It's a new Isser.
It's a new Isur. So that's the chidush of Basar B'Chalav, that it's a new Isser as the two combine. It's not an irregular Isser Balua. Right? So, but you understood the question, right? The question was, it looks like it would be an Isser Balua, but it's not. Like Ilan said, they combine to form a new Isser.
That's right. Now,
right.
Now the meat is an Isser B'fnei Atzmo.
Yeah, now because
of cooking.
Because of the combination.
Because of cooking with milk.
Yeah, but before each one is
right. Okay. So now let's just finish with the last point. If that's the case, that the Isser Basar B'Chalav is not an Isser Balua, what happens if this piece of meat that has Basar B'Chalav is touching another piece of meat? They're both hot, roasting, right? Forget about kochosh and shaman right now, because right, we know the Ramo is machmer, so we don't distinguish. But the ikar adin, heat and heat, how much is it? Netila, sleep, okay. But what we did say is that that's only an isur machmas atzmoi. If you have an isur balua, piece of heter with an isur balua touching another piece of meat, it's not going to go anywhere. Forget about kochosh and shaman right now. We're not going to make things complicated. Two pieces of meat. The piece of meat that has an isur is the isur balua. It's not going to go anywhere. It doesn't have liquid. It can't travel. So this, okay, is that clear? Right? It's not an isur machmas atzmoi. It has a belia. So it's sitting next to, roasting another piece of meat. Oh no, this piece of meat is treif. Yeah, but it's not treif because it's treifed. It became treif because it was belei an isur, right? So it's not the real McCoy. It has a blia. That blia cannot travel with plain heat. It needs liquid in a pot. Okay, so it doesn't. Good, I'm safe. But wait a minute, they told me, no. This piece of meat that has a blia is Basar B'Chalav. Basar B'Chalav, remember Chanan. Everybody agrees Basar B'Chalav is Chanan, according to everybody, the Raisa. So yes, we said that the blia doesn't make it a Isur Balua, because it's the combination of the two. So it's not a real Isur Balua. But nevertheless, the chemistry here is the same. Do we say that this piece of meat, the milk cannot travel together with it? In other words, it can't. I mean, the Isur won't travel. Is this an Isur Balua legabe affecting the meat adjacent to it or not? And that is a famous machlokas. Remember, Ilan? In Taaruvot, between the Shach and the Taz. Shach says, no, it's all Isur Gamor. it's Basar B'Chalav. And the Taz seems to learn that no, it would not be, as far as affecting the meat next to it, adjacent to it, it would qualify as an Isur Balua. Siman Kuf Hey. So the Gabe Basar B'Chalav affecting the adjacent meat without liquid, machlokes, whether the chalav in the basar is called an isur balua or not, and therefore would it answer the whole thing? Would it answer even kedei netila, anything? So that's a machlokes. The gabe our halacha, then of course, once the two come together, it's not an isur balua. It's a real isur. That's the isur of cooking basar b'chalav together. And of course, that's the problem where people who work for McDonald's or anybody, if they're Jewish, they would have a problem. I mean, mixing, cooking, it's also to cook that two together. Even though burgers, maybe it's only roasting, still, putting cheese in a burger, maybe that wouldn't be a deraisa. But still, I mean, you shouldn't work there anyway, right?
No.
Why?
According to my Talbur,
yeah.
Myself, or you're having hanah from...
All the hanahs. It depends what your job is exactly. Yeah. Yeah. If you wash the dishes.
Well, if you're an accountant, washing the dishes might also be a problem.
Might also be a problem, yeah.
If you're an accountant.
Are you having a hanah from Basar B'Chalav? Depending what you're doing. Yeah, depending what you're doing. Because as we said, the real
what
isur...
are you being paid to?
Yeah,
it's
the real isur...
It's a hanah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
on. If he's in a ticket job.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem.
No, no.
That's an indirect thing from any business except for Avodah Zarah. Yeah. But the point here is that the real Isser the rice is the cooking it. But once you do it, you have combined and formed a new Isser, which becomes Hanan, and which, of course, if it would be a Chaticha Ruyelas Kab, it would also be a problem, because that is like a Isser Machmas Atzmai. Even though it has absorbed, it has become an Isser. And therefore, if it's a Chaticha Ruyelas Kab, it wouldn't be Bata Filu Be'elef. Okay, we'll stop over here. Let's Hashem continue Thursday.
What about the Isser of not being go into business with the Vela?
No, that's another issue. You're talking about doing business with Nevelas? Yeah, you cannot do business by selling nevelas on a regular basis.
Right.
Yeah, that's a derabbanan.
No, I'm just asking, but with respect to working, let's say, at doing business with nevelas?
It depends. If you're the CEO, or if you're actually selling it, you don't want to be marshal any Jew to buy something that is trade.
You can do advertising?
Advertising for it, yeah.
Well, no, because let's say you have one of these.
Yeah.
So would you then?
Well, no, that would be a different problem. To advertise in a Jewish community
Not
will.
advertise.
No, because you're being that could be a problem with Niddah.
Right.
You don't want to do that. You don't want to be marshal people.
But if they do it on the radio and people could live in New York or wherever.
Sure. Yeah, it depends if it's the establishment or a certain product. If you're advertising the store, the business, it's one thing. If you're advertising a product, it's a whole different thing. Business people know that certain things may be kosher, certain things may not be kosher. And hopefully they realize that they need to check. But you shouldn't be advertising a trade store with a kippah on your head if that's what you're doing. Right. Yes, that's not a problem. Yeah.
So the guy who does advertising on the radio, so many Jews.
Right.
There are so many who
Yeah.
don't keep.
Yeah.
And what he did, does that? It's indirect.
It's indirect, yeah. You have to be careful with lifnei iver.
Okay.
If they know you're Jewish, right, and even if they don't know you're Jewish, the fact that you're doing it to promote something that may cause others, it could be a problem, sure. It could be a problem.
What's the difference if the Pooh or a goy? No one is going to go to that restaurant which a trade, eat there because a Jew advertised. It's not that I'm saying, he's a Jew who's doing the advertising.
No, but the mere advertisement, it can be a form of lifnei iver. If you are sponsoring it, you're promoting it, you're pushing it, people listen to it, it could be a problem. But anyway,
someone is going to do the advertising.
Yeah.
You're not going to refrain from advertising because they can't find a Jew to advertise.
Yeah.
Someone is going to do the advertisement is going to be in the newspaper.
Right.
The question is, do I get the benefit
still,
of it or not?
anytime you're doing something that may be construed as supporting or promoting, maybe an issue. It's a tzorech iyun. It's not so simple. Obviously, this is a little bit more indirect.
Right.
You're not really promoting it. Just talking about a business in general that they have a sale. You're not pushing the product, but obviously, all these kinds of things may have problems with maris ayin. May have problems with the Iver.
But that's only if being Jewish has some function in this act.
No, but like you said, in New York, a lot of people.
In New York, you've got the Court of the City or something like that.
Right, so many Jews will see the ad, but the fact that a Jew put out the ad or was somehow had a function in the ad or avoided the ad is not going to make any difference with respect to the effect of the ad now.
Yeah.
So that's undoubtful that there you can say maris ayin.
No, maris ayin would not be a problem in that case, no.
Nobody knows that.
Yeah.
No one knows whether, and even if they know that it's a Jewish company that constructed the ad, no one is going to say, then I'm allowed to eat this because a Jewish company.
Anyway,
so then it should be muted by the.
I don't see where you.
Anyway, it becomes more complicated when the Jew is the owner of this business and you're helping him. That's already called mesayeh.
That's a different story.
That's a
different story.
That's
because the Jewish owner is the problem.
right. So then you don't want to be a part of it either. Okay.